I just kind of cast it as, oh, he's losing his marbles. Had I known, I think I would have handled it better. I think I would have been a much more patient person. I think my father would have felt way less alone.
The day Marvel Studios announced Ryan Reynolds' departure stunned not only superhero fans, but the entire entertainment industry. In a cinematic universe where loyalty to marquee actors is the norm, losing a star of Ryan's caliber seemed almost unthinkable. Yet his sudden dismissal came on the heels of new evidence, colloquially referred to as receipts, unveiled by Justin Baldoni, a filmmaker at the center of a complicated feud involving Ryan's wife, Blake Lively. The question on everyone's mind was clear. How could one of Hollywood's most bankable performers, poised to headline major Marvel projects, face termination so abruptly? Rumors suggesting tension between Ryan and Marvel executives had percolated for a while. The whispers became louder following the fiasco around a highly publicized film adaptation directed and co-written by Justin. Early on, many believed the drama was confined to a conflict between Justin and Blake, rooted in creative disputes and alleged power plays. But with the studio's announcement, the narrative took a decisive turn. It implied that Ryan's behind-the-scenes involvement was more extensive than previously imagined, enough to jeopardize his future within Marvel's billion-dollar franchise. To understand this seismic event, one must look back at how it all began. Justin Baldoni had developed a glowing reputation for crafting emotive stories that struck a chord with wide audiences. When he set out to direct a film adaptation of a beloved novel, viewers were eager to see what he would do with the poignant source material. Blake Lively, known for her warmth in interviews and red carpet poise, was cast in a leading role. On the surface, the collaboration appeared to be a perfect match. Justin's empathetic style and Blake's accessible star power fueled excitement among fans, especially as promotional clips painted the project in a rosy, uplifting light. Yet trouble brewed almost from the start. Insiders whispered that Blake grew frustrated with Justin's multifaceted role. He wasn't just directing. He also had a hand in the script and was slated to play a principal character.
I'm honored, and I'm also more honored that because, what we're talking about is so important and so meaningful, that we're able to have this much anticipation, and so many people want to go see it and are talking about it. That's what I'm grateful for.
And you had a key part in bringing it to the big screen. How did this all come to be?
Well, in 2019, I read the book. I was sent the book by my book agent and friend at the time, and I was looking for films that could inspire, that were commercially viable, but also could really reach in and touch somebody's heart.
Hollywood is no stranger to creative differences, but on this set, tensions appeared to escalate with unusual speed. Eventually, the rumor mill churn out stories claiming that Blake felt overshadowed and believed Justin was hogging the spotlight. Casual observers might have dismissed it as standard on-set friction, something that would blow over once filming wrapped. Then, in a twist, Blake abruptly accused Justin of undermining her reputation. She suggested he had orchestrated leaks to the press, depicting her as demanding, temperamental, or otherwise challenging. At first, the industry was inclined to believe her. After all, plenty of behind-the-scenes feuds have been fueled by strategic leaks. Blake's charges resonated with those who contended that in Hollywood, male directors can more easily cast female leads in a negative light. Suddenly, headlines and social media discourse labeled Justin an overbearing force, overshadowing a star who only wanted her voice heard. What turned the tide, however, were the text messages unveiled by Justin's team. These messages contradicted Blake's narrative, showing that she had been issuing her own demands and freely referencing her husband's formidable network. She referred to these powerful friends and colleagues, Ryan among them, as dragons, an allusion to the formidable backing she could summon if her requirements weren't met. The logs implied she was trying to steer script rewrites, choose marketing angles, and even shape public perception. This revelation cast doubt on her earlier claims of feeling oppressed. Instead, it appeared she was exerting a great deal of influence behind the scenes. While this drama simmered, Ryan's role remained mostly speculative. No one could say for certain how deeply he was involved, or whether Blake was invoking his name without his explicit consent. Fans wondered if the comedic star was simply staying out of his wife's professional entanglements, particularly since he hadn't commented publicly publicly on the controversy. But that changed when additional material surfaced. Messages implicating Ryan in the efforts to challenge Justin's directorial authority and spin the story to Blake's advantage. Ryan's brand rests on a foundation of humor and goodwill, but these logs suggested he was less a bystander and more a co-strategist. The revelations came in snippets, references to phone calls with influential contacts, suggestions for how to leak unfavorable tidbits about Justin, and even proposed angles that might recast Blake as the misunderstood hero. For a time, the entire matter focused on the simmering dispute between Justin and Blake, overshadowing Ryan's cameo role in the fiasco. Then Justin made an unexpected announcement. He possessed a new batch of comprehensive receipts, meaning time-stamped communications and digital proof too complete to dismiss as mere rumor or editorial spin. According to early descriptions, these records detailed Ryan's awareness of specific smear tactics presumably devised to reposition the conversation around Blake's grievances while painting Justin as unsympathetic or dismissive. As soon as word spread that Justin was about to go public with the evidence, Marvel executives reportedly grew uneasy. Ryan had become a crucial figure in Marvel's expanding plans, but the possibility that he might be actively involved in disruptive, ethically questionable behind-the-scenes maneuvering prompted urgent meetings at the highest levels. The entertainment industry has witnessed controversies involving marquee names before, but the stakes here were unusually high. Marvel relies on stable, controversy-free relationships with its key actors, especially those who embody beloved characters. Ryan's comedic flair had become intertwined with his identity in the franchise. If Marvel continued to stand by him, despite evidence of unethical conduct, particularly behavior that undercut a respected filmmaker, it could spark backlash among fans, cast members, and even future collaborators. Then came the day that changed everything. Marvel executives convened to examine the newly released receipts from Justin. The content, while not immediately shared with the public, was said to paint a damning picture of Ryan's involvement, providing direct confirmations that he had actively coordinated with Blake to manage press coverage and manipulate public opinion against Justin. At the same time, rumors suggested that the messages extended beyond the immediate film conflict, hinting at a broader pattern of pressure tactics. Something about how Ryan and Blake leveraged industry ties for personal or professional gain. That was the final straw. In a move that nobody anticipated, Marvel opted to let Ryan go, effectively ending a partnership that once promised major box office returns. The official statement from Marvel contained a curt explanation, referencing a recent review of newly disclosed information, and concluding that Ryan's position with the studio was no longer tenable. The language surprised fans for its directness. Typically, Marvel's public announcements rely on cheerful updates or vague corporate speak, but this one was noticeably serious and final. Almost immediately, social media platforms buzzed with shocked reactions, disbelief, and an outpouring of questions. How had a star with such a huge following and a seemingly pristine comedic reputation ended up in a position to be dismissed by the very studio that had championed him? While fans clamored for clarifications, Justin maintained a steady, unflustered approach. He offered no immediate victory lap, making no pointed public jabs at Ryan or Blake. Instead, he released more detailed logs, clarifying the timeline of events. He asserted that his intention was never to vilify anyone but to protect his professional integrity and the well-being of the production team. According to Justin, the released messages demonstrated undeniable intent to undermine him as a director and content creator. His stance echoed the same message he had voiced from the start. If disputes arise, the correct way forward is open communication, not covert campaigns to smear or sway the press. At this juncture, the attention surrounding Blake's role only increased. Her attorney had sensationally cut ties, citing irreconcilable differences with her account of events. Onlookers wondered if she had pressured Ryan to intervene, or if the two had equally shaped the plan from the beginning. Rumors flew about the state of their marriage, prompting speculation that the alliance they projected to the public was, in reality, a partnership dedicated to tightly controlling their public image. Whether or not that was true, the surfacing receipts pointed to a new dimension of complexity. It wasn't simply about Blake wanting more creative say. It was about orchestrating strategies to make Justin appear inept or unyielding, a portrayal not supported by the uncensored text logs. Ryan, typically quick to respond with humor, fell notably silent. On his social media, he avoided addressing the story altogether, choosing instead to post generic or promotional content unrelated to Marvel or the film fiasco. Observers saw this as uncharacteristic. When controversies of smaller magnitude had erupted in the past, Ryan often tackled them head-on, sometimes with a cheeky wink that swiftly put fans at ease. But with Marvel's termination now public, such an approach would likely have backfired. Sources close to him claim he was in crisis mode, figuring out how best to restore a public persona that had taken a direct hit. Marvel's decision resonated throughout the entertainment world. Studios keep watchful eyes on each other, especially regarding how they handle contract disputes with A-listers. The fact that a media titan such as Marvel dismissed Ryan suggested the evidence of wrongdoing was undeniable, or at least severe enough to outweigh the substantial profit he might have generated for the brand. This formed a stark warning for other actors. Star power is not an all-encompassing shield against accusations if the underlying allegations threaten the integrity or public image of the franchise. As the dust settled, opinions in Hollywood grew sharply divided. One camp maintained that Marvel overreacted, calling it an extreme step. Could the collaboration not have been salvaged through PR damage control or carefully worded apologies? After all, Ryan was a major box office draw. Others saw Marvel's move as an overdue stance on accountability. If a top-tier star like Ryan had indeed conspired to manipulate the narrative around a respected director, that kind of behavior undercut fundamental principles of professionalism. Some within the industry privately voiced relief, stating that manipulations orchestrated by powerful couples had lingered unaddressed for too long. The argument went that if Disney's superhero arm, the most formidable force in pop culture, held Ryan to account, it might lead to broader reforms, discouraging behind-the-scenes string-pulling in other high-profile productions. For Justin, the immediate sense was one of vindication. He insisted that his real goal never involved punishing individuals, but rather bringing to light the behind-closed-doors maneuvers that threatened his creative vision. While some might see Marvel's firing of Ryan as an unfortunate outcome, others believed it a necessary measure to restore equilibrium. Production assistants, camera operators, and other crew who had witnessed the tension quietly expressed relief. They recounted how episodes of conflict were sometimes inflated into elaborate grievances, only to reappear in rumor columns soon after. In their eyes, the new receipts validated concerns that something more organized was at work. Blake, by this stage, had retreated from public engagements. From once constant social media posts spotlighting her family life, she shifted to a near radio silence, fueling speculation that she and Ryan were scrambling to manage the turmoil. Those within her orbit suggested she was devastated by Marvel's choice to remove Ryan, interpreting it as a personal blow. Others close to the situation claimed she was doubling down, insisting that Justin had exaggerated or twisted the narrative. Yet with so much evidence in circulation, her attempts to frame Justin as the antagonist now seemed flimsy. Indeed, fans who'd initially rushed to defend her reversed their stance, citing the released logs as a sobering wake-up call that perhaps the real story was far more complicated. Meanwhile, the broader media coverage dissected every angle. Talk shows debated whether Ryan could rehabilitate his standing or if his comedic brand, once seemingly impenetrable, had sustained permanent damage. Movie analysts noted the irony of Marvel, famed for forging tight bonds with its leading actors, being forced into a very public split. Some pointed to the possibility of Ryan finding a new comeback story, a narrative arc beloved by Hollywood. Others, more cynical, argued that the rift with Marvel might be too significant to recover from quickly, especially given how thoroughly this incident had permeated news cycles. Behind the scenes, other production houses weighed the risk of associating with Ryan in the immediate aftermath. Untold numbers of projects had been in development, counting on his broad broad appeal. Now, executives wondered if continuing those plans would drag them into controversy, especially if more evidence surfaced tying him to questionable dealings. While an eventual rebound wasn't impossible, Hollywood is well known for reinvention. A period of cautious distancing looked inevitable. Industry reporters who had covered earlier controversies saw parallels to other stars who faced swift, dramatic falls from grace. One difference was that Ryan's comedic persona had given him an everyman charm. The public rarely sensed malice behind his witty banter, but the messages tying him to what critics called a smear campaign against a well-liked director forced fans to reconcile that comedic persona with the possibility of complex, behind-the-scenes manipulations. Justin, for his part, again tried to shift focus back to the film itself. Despite the spectacle, he reiterated that the heart of the adaptation rested in the source material's emotional depth and universal themes. Crew members who remained loyal to Justin appreciated his resilience. He never used the fiasco to portray himself as a hero. He stuck to the facts, letting the document speak. With Marvel's official move, it was evident the document spoke volumes. In the broader realm of superhero cinema, the question now is, who might take Ryan's place? Recasting in midstream can prove tricky, especially for an actor identified so strongly with a specific role. Marvel had pinned substantial plans on him, some rumored to extend well into the franchise's future. Scrapping or rewriting projects involves big financial losses, and fans historically react strongly to changes in established casting. Yet continuing with Ryan was clearly off the table. Marvel's abrupt termination signaled a stance that overshadowed financial considerations. If trust with an actor is broken to such a degree, forging onward can create bigger problems down the line. Ironically, in the midst of it all, Justin's adaptation still advanced, albeit under a press cloud. The more fans learned about the conflict, the more curiosity built about how the film might turn out. Some cynics suggested the entire controversy could benefit the box office. For Justin, though, the real victory lay in preserving his vision. He refused to pivot the film's promotional strategy around Ryan's meltdown or Marvel's decision, insisting that the work stand on its own merit, rather than become a footnote in an unfolding scandal. What remains to be seen is how Ryan will respond once the dust settles. Will he attempt a definitive apology, possibly refuting certain texts as taken out of context or claiming his involvement was exaggerated? Will he find a path to a heartfelt reconciliation that might ease tensions with Marvel down the road? Or is this a break so final that no amount of damage control can mend it? Given the magnitude of the studio's decision, the last scenario seems the most likely. It's rare for Marvel to sever ties publicly. Their preference has always been to manage controversies quietly. Taking such a definitive stance suggests that internal deliberations reached a firm conclusion. Continuing with Ryan was untenable. Meanwhile, Justin persists in letting the disclosures stand as his final word. Rather than gloat about Ryan's ouster from Marvel, he has expressed quiet resolve. The ordeal, painful though it was, underscored how essential candor and collaboration are in an industry susceptible to hidden deals and manipulative PR. Even if he never intended for events to escalate to this magnitude, his handling of the conflict set a precedent, demonstrating that if confronted with selective narratives, providing full context can be potent. There's an undeniable lesson at the heart of this drama. Not even the most humor-infused celebrity image is impervious to serious allegations backed by hard evidence. Ryan's comedic approach once seemed bulletproof, bridging mainstream fans and film executives. Yet behind the wit lay complicated dynamics. Watching the swift fall from Marvel's grace and the pivot from adored star to ousted actor has forced the entire industry to examine its beliefs about influence, alliances, and the illusions upon which stardom is built. So, for now, the saga concludes with Ryan's abrupt departure from a powerhouse studio that once championed him. New narratives will likely form, speculation about potential legal actions, rumors of hush-hush negotiations, or even an eventual mea culpa that attempts to reframe the fiasco as a misunderstanding. But no matter how the next steps unfold, this chapter stands as a stark reminder. In an era of comprehensive documentation, texts, emails, unedited logs, no one is immune to evidence that contradicts carefully cultivated public images. And once an institution as monolithic as Marvel determines that those revelations are too damaging to overlook, the door can slam shut with startling finality.